Okay, so this is something I've been thinking about for a while, something that I've just felt isn't quite right. So I've seen a few MPs and councillors recently in British politics who have strong, unmistakably non-British accents. Not like a British accent, but maybe with a bit of a twang. No, it's just their fully intact native accents that clearly signals that they were fully formed somewhere else. And every time I see, I just feel a bit like, this doesn't actually quite fit. So I spoke about a Tower Hamlets councillor recently in relation to another topic, but he obviously has a very strong non-British accent. And I was like, it's just actually such a mismatch.
I'm not over there. I'm here. I've been doing my surgeries. Tower Hamlets is my top priority.
This isn't personal to anyone at all, but I don't think this should be normalised. If you're a representative as a British official, yet you sound as if Britain barely formed you at all, it's just odd. And when I say British accent, I mean English, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish, regional accents, working class accents, middle class, upper class, all of that is Britain, that's fine. What I'm talking about is when someone is standing in Parliament or in a council meeting or whatever, making decisions on behalf of British people and they sound unmistakably, African or Indian, it can even be Spanish, Portuguese, American, whatever else. I don't care. I don't think British officials should have a strong non-British accent, something unambiguous. It's odd. That's just my personal thing. I don't accept strong foreign accents in British politics, full stop. I don't think they belong there. A public official whose accent is non-British feels out of place in a British political institution. I don't think it's a trivial detail because it signals that the person speaking was not culturally formed here, and that matters when you are exercising authority over the public in some capacity. And there is a huge difference between someone who came here young, was educated here, and speaks in a way that sounds broadly British but maybe with some residual flavour. Even that is not ideal, but that is worlds apart from someone whose speech makes it immediately clear that their cultural formation happened somewhere else entirely. And the thing is, sometimes what makes this even worse is that they may even have lived in Britain all their lives. And if you have spent decades here and still speak with a thick foreign accent, then that is a sign of non-integration. It tells me that this person has lived in a parallel community, socially, culturally, linguistically, cut off from the broader population. And that raises a very obvious question. How can someone represent the broader public when their speech alone shows they've never really moved beyond their own community? I mean, I saw a viral video on Instagram. A Ugandan politician spent time in the United States, I think it was 2 weeks or something, and he went back to the country speaking in a strong American accent, including while addressing the Ugandan government. And his colleagues, they didn't politely ignore it. They mocked him, they called it out. They found it embarrassing. Some were openly irritated.
That is now literally impassable. 6 months down the road after the commissioner by the president himself, and there's no work whatsoever. Mr. Minister, can we please have a clear plan when the work is going to begin?
Honestly speaking, because of the complicated accent my colleague is using, I've only had 3 words.
I am straining myself to understand him, and yet he's saying a very serious issue. And Mr. Speaker, next time Mr. Atikens is supposed to present, he needs to speak the common English of Uganda. We are tired of this,
No one will call that racist. No one will frame it as exclusionary. It was understood as a matter of dignity, seriousness, respect for national political culture. You don't stand in your own parliament sounding like you belong somewhere else. So I don't really know why we can't apply the same standards in Britain. If anything, Britain has even more reason to care. This is already a country struggling with cohesion. Trust in politics and politicians is low. People feel disconnected from those in power. They feel decisions are being made by people who do not live like them, think like them, or understand their lives. When the person speaking also sounds culturally distant, I mean, some people don't care, good for them, but it isn't unreasonable to notice and to care about it. We really need to stop dancing around the word assimilation. Assimilation is not oppression. It is the baseline requirement of a shared civic life. If you want to serve as a member of parliament, as a British British public official, full assimilation should be assumed. Not partial, not symbolic, not selective, full. That is the cost of entry into representing a nation rather than a subgroup, rather than your own community. Every stable society has always expected this, even the ones that now pretend that they don't or it's not important. Assimilation is how trust is built. Without it, representation becomes fragmented and loyalty actually becomes quite unclear. A country cannot function if those who govern it remain culturally separate in any way from the people they claim to represent. And what I think we are seeing now is a kind of cultural refusal, sometimes overtly, sometimes it's subtle. You know, this sense that one can enter British political life while remaining audibly, visibly, sometimes psychologically elsewhere, and that everyone else has to simply adjust or just ignore it. For me, this is just cultural and political suicide. I'm not necessarily asking for any laws, any new policies. I'm not calling for bans. I know there are bigger issues. I'm talking about expectations, cultural pressure, a collective understanding that if you want to speak for Britain, you should sound like Britain has shaped you, rubbed off on you. I don't know, because if public officials sound like outsiders, then politics itself starts to feel foreign. And when politics starts to feel foreign, then people just stop respecting it. They stop trusting it. They stop seeing it as theirs. And we are already dangerously close to that point, if not there already. You can't represent a country you don't sound part of. Sorry, I don't know. Is it controversial? I don't know. I just think once you accept that accent doesn't even matter, it doesn't stop there. The logic keeps moving. First, it's fine not to sound British in British politics. Then it's fine not to speak English particularly well. Who knows, one day they might have translators in Parliament. I don't know. The expectations just keeps lowering and lowering. At some point, the burden is no longer for the newcomer to integrate at all. It's for the country to constantly bend. And Britain is constantly bending its rules, its ways. No other country behaves like this, by the way. France doesn't even. Japan doesn't. Poland doesn't. They insist on language, cultural competence, acceptance of national norms. Britain uniquely treats enforcing its own basics as impolite. This is literally cultural self-erasure. It is not tolerance. Language is not just a tool for communication. It carries precision, shared meaning and understanding, clarity, cultural memory and, acceptance. I'm not sure why British people keep telling themselves that they're just being kind, open, modern by just accepting anything that comes. Every society that lasts draws a line somewhere. Britain's problem right now is not that it's drawing harsh lines, it's that it increasingly refuses to draw any lines at all, even around the very basics. I don't know, it's just so bizarre. For me, accent is one of the clearest signs of integration, and it seems like a small issue, but then it's one of those small issues that lead or cause the bigger issues down the line. Anyway, bugbear of mine. Everyone is different. So let me know what you think about this. If you made it this far into the video, I'd love to ask you to subscribe to this channel. I'd love to ask you to become a member, and I'd like to take this opportunity to already say thank you to the current members that I have, not just here on YouTube, but even on Substack as well, those on the paid subscription. I want to thank you because it really helps to keep this channel going, and it's going to help it become bigger and better than it is. See you again.